Hello, I'm Cherry Potts and I run Arachne Press, and it's coming up to the solstice and therefore to Solstice Shorts Festival, and normally this time of year I make a cake that we can eat at the festival, and it's my own recipe and it's called the Solstice Cake for reasons that will become apparent eventually. Normally I just share the recipe so that people can make their own if they aren't able to join us, but I thought this year I'd channel my inner, I was going to say Nigella, but really I think I'm more in the Keith Floyd angle. You're probably too young to know about Keith Floyd, but never mind. And cook it for you. So, the ingredients. You need butter or margarine, sugar, chocolate, Tidy Kitchen ground almonds, cocoa, huge pack of cocoa, actually don't need very much but I'd run out, preserved ginger, brandy, an orange, eggs, self-raising flour. I think that's everything. This is a really bad for you recipe. There is no point me pretending that it's either vegan or nut free or gluten free, and there are so many bad for you ingredients in it that there's no point trying to make a version that is suitable. We've just been joined by the cat. Okay, so there may be catly interruptions. Hello, no, you're not getting it, your food's there. Anyway, so I'm an old-fashioned cook. I use old-fashioned measuring device and I measure in ounces, but you can find somewhere that will correct this for you. Now, essentially for this you're making two cakes, but I use the same basic recipe. So we start off with 4 ounces of butter or marge. Marge works perfectly well and faster because you can mix it in straight away. The microwave is your friend if you've left your butter in the fridge, but you do have to be careful. Slightly less than that, slightly more than that. Probably should put an apron on, shouldn't I? I'll put an apron on. Real cooks have grubby aprons. Right, so 4 ounces of fat of your choice. See, this is not designed for doing all this, is it? 4 ounces of caster sugar. I've never seen how these work. As soon as it balances, you've got the right amount. There we go. And a wooden spoon. Massive wooden spoon this. It was an impulse buy in a hardware store. I love hardware stores. Completely useless actually, because it just doesn't fit in the dishwasher. Not that you should put wooden spoons in dishwashers anyway. And it's a bit unwieldy. Had this fantasy that I was going to be cooking huge things in huge pots and would need a huge spoon. Nah. Anyway, you cream this together. And as you see, it goes together very fast because it's margarine. However, you want to get it a bit more just to mix. You want it to blend and look creamy. And it should slightly change colour. It gets paler the more you do this. I have problems with my shoulders, so I really don't enjoy this. It really hurts. I never understood why as a kid when I was beating things by hand, eggs, egg whites and things like that. It was torture and I couldn't understand why. And it's because I have problems with my shoulders. Anyway, so like that. To which we add 2 eggs and 1 ounce of half an ounce of cocoa and 2.5 ounces of flour. because I'm making half measures because I'm going to make this cake twice with different ingredients. This is a very simple recipe. You don't have to separate the eggs, you don't have to beat them first, you just knock them on their heads and shove them in. Very simple, very unfussy, this recipe. In fact, I have written on it, do not be tempted to beat the egg whites. It doesn't work as well if you do. Right, so mix these in, at which point it will start trying to curdle, which is fine. You don't worry about that. In fact, I got my wizard out and I don't need it because it's useless. I'll put that away for a minute. Now, the thing you do need for this recipe is a sieve, because you don't want the flour or your cocoa going in lumpy. So, that's a sieve. It's a very ancient sieve, all rusty, tastes fine. Right, so 2.5 ounces. Find my little weights. 2 ounces of oops. It's not very much flour. That's because it's got the ground almonds in as well. So we add that through the sieve and some cocoa. Very exciting. It's the first time I've had this particular cocoa. It comes from a wholesaler. Mr. Harris, we love you. Alright, now you have to be a bit careful with this. Because too much is too much. And this is very strong cocoa. And also expensive and don't want to waste it. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah. And you put that in together. You put a bit in at a time and mix it in. As you can see, it stops curdling because it's got the flour in it. And you want to get lots of air in there, partly while you're putting through the sieve, because this is where it all comes from. This is actually half measures for what I would normally make because there isn't a live festival, so no one's going to be eating it but me and Alex. And we don't want to eat an entire cake ourselves. In fact, we'll probably put it in the freezer and eat it bit by bit. Cut it, it freezes very nicely, you can cut it up and serve yourself as many slices as you want at a time. Right, so now we're adding 1 ounce of ground almonds. Yes. There you go. It doesn't have to be all that precise, because this is one of those recipes that you fix at the end by adding stuff. We should put the oven on, shouldn't I? About now. You know, all these recipes they say prepare everything, put the oven on before you start. I've got a gas oven so it heats up really fast, and why waste the gas having it on before we need it? Right, and it goes in at gas mark 6. That's 400 degrees Fahrenheit, I have no idea in centigrade. And we have to hold this in for a bit. Make sure it's alight. Yep. Okie doke. And get out the tins. Oh, hello, Julian's joined in. Hello, Julian. Despite the fact they're non-stick, you still line them if you've got any sense. Some. And to get that to stay nice and stiff. Hello, being joined by the other half of the family.
Well, actually, where's the other bit? Oh, one bit's left and the other bit's come in. Well, I'm actually going for a walk,
Okay.
so I will see you later.
Okay.
Fresh air's called for.
That one smells of onions. It's been up against an onion. That's a different one. Hi. Hi. She's talking to the cat about the fact that I'm talking to the camera. Okay. So we just, normally there's enough butter left on your butter wrapper to do this, but this one's remarkably dry. So we'll do it with some margarine. Goes in. And put a little bit of margarine on the top side as well, so it's easy to pull off later. And you're oiling down the sides as well as the bottom. It may say it's non-stick, but they always do. Right. Where have we got to? Oh yes, we haven't added the brandy yet. So, tablespoon of brandy. Any brandy will do. This is quite good brandy because it's what we happen to have. But cheapo's fine because it's mostly going to cook it anyway. If you don't want alcohol, you can use fruit juice or you can use milk. Oh, it smells amazing. So these are 18 centimetres, these cakes. The recipe actually asks for 22, but I don't have a 22 and I like my cakes a bit deeper than that, so I may have to change my cooking time. So we swap this in here, and as you can see, it's quite damp. Probably shouldn't lick the bowl out in public, so I probably won't. Not absolutely guaranteeing that, on account of the fact that it's going to be washed before I make the next one anyway. Might have a go at that with a spatula to get the rest of it out. Don't waste cake mix. If you're not going to lick the bowl out, you should make sure as much as possible goes in the actual cake. Probably speed that bit up when I'm editing. Right, and then we just smooth it out very slightly. You don't have, if you smooth it too much, you might take some air out. So you just make sure it's actually touching the sides. Scrape it off. Sorry, can't help it. And then you shove that in. Oven is up to heat. And it takes about 40 minutes. Recipe says to do it in more layers than this, and it takes only 20 minutes. So I'll give it 35 and see how it's doing. In the meantime, I'll make the other cake. Okay, Okay, so this is cake 2. It's got exactly the same amount of butter, sugar, flour, eggs and almonds in it. Maybe a tiny bit more almond to make up the fact that it hasn't got the cocoa in it, because you want it the same consistency if possible. Now to this we're going to add stem ginger, which we're going to chop up. I think I'll put two knobbles in. Why not? A nice sharp knife for this. Pay attention, don't cut your fingers. This is wonderful stuff. You might be able to hear the timer going. That's for the cake that's already in. You can also hear the fan on the oven going. That's because it's got hot enough to set it off. So you'll want this in pretty small bits so that you don't get a surprise when you bite into it and get a lump. So that sort of size. Then shut that in. Now this cake is slightly wetter than the other one, so the orange, we're only going to put half the orange juice, the juice of half an orange in, but we're also going to grate in the peel, which I think it's called from it. It's getting very hot in there. I'm going to take my time for a minute, I think. Quite a tired orange, which is why I'm using it for this, because it's past its prime, but it also means that this pith is not coming off terribly well, so I might do 2, so I've got another tired one as well. Now you can just use orange juice out of a carton if you want, but as you're going to be mucking about with the integrity of your orange anyway by doing this, you might as well use the juice in it, because it isn't going to keep any longer. So, squeeze on squeezer, pretty straightforward. You do have to be a bit careful, because having taken the outsides of it off, it tends to split. And this one's behaving, so that's good. You can smell the cake now. That's been going for 20 minutes. No. Been going for 15 minutes, got 20 minutes left. Right, so we add that. Now that might make it curdle, so if it does, you just put a teaspoonful of extra flour in. That looks like it's going to be perfectly happy, that's good. Now we add this. Probably better to do it with a knife than your fingers, it sticks to your fingers. And you want it in the cake, not on the floor or your clothes. So the concept here is that the chocolate half of the cake is winter and the orange and ginger is summer. Or you could look at it as the day and it's the morning and the evening and blah blah. First made this cake when we were doing dusk, so that was very definitely fitting both criteria at that point. Right, so that's the second half of the cake. If I was feeling greedy and it wasn't as wet as this, I'd put some of the syrup in, but it is a bit wet, this one, so I won't. So, get this into the cake tin. because I didn't wash the syrup off the ginger, it might sink to the bottom, but it really doesn't matter. This is going to be entirely covered in things, so nobody's going to be looking at where the how evenly spread the ginger is. Let's try and split again, hopefully it'll be alright. So spread that about a bit, make sure it's in contact with all sides. This is a lot wetter than the other one. Never mind. If you're super organised and have extremely clever scales and all of that jazz, you can actually make double the quantity of the basic mix and then halve it and do all of that and then get your cakes in together. I'm not that clever, so I don't do that. But it would be more economical in all sorts of different ways. Not least, how long the gas is on. Excuse me while I take the jumper off. I'm far too hot. So you have to wait until the other cake's ready to put that in, because if I open the oven now, it'll go flat, or when I take the other one out, this one will go flat, and we don't want that. So we'll pause this and come back. Okay, so we've got the first cake out. We'll leave it in the tin for a bit to sink away from the sides. We'll shove it on a cooling tray so it's not on a hot surface, because I just put it down on my cutting plate parchment and it's marked it, but never mind. We start thinking about the filling and the decoration at this point. That cake should take 35 minutes, but this doesn't set really fast, so it's fine to start ahead of time. So for this we need 2 ounces of butter, 3.5 ounces of icing sugar, 3 ounces of bitter chocolate, half a tablespoon of brandy and some boiling water. Now this gets separated out and I quite often forget to do that. So let me just double check how much I need for which bit. Right, so I only need 2 ounces of chocolate for the first part, so put 1 ounce back. Yeah, thought that so. Now, some recipe books go on about melting chocolate in a Bain-Marie, i.e. over hot water. Shove it in the microwave on a low setting in short bursts until it melts. The more you break it up first, the better. This is why cooking chocolate is often sold as drops or buttons, because it's quicker. So I'm going to shove this in the microwave. Risky leaving it. I don't have a timer on my proper timer on my microwave, so we just hope for the best. Right, now first bit we need all of the butter and some of the icing sugar. So I want 2 ounces of butter. I want a butter here because you want this to set, and not all margarines will set, especially the ones that aren't designed to. The ones that are designed to be spreadable tend not to set. There we go. That's the bowl. And icing sugar. 3 ounces. Let's see what's happened to that. A bit more. It's been very slow. Right, so cream the butter and the icing sugar together, and I've got that far. And then we add chocolate and more brandy. Right, so 3 ounces of icing sugar. This needs sieving again because it's very lumpy. sieve in the sink, which was not clever. How's it going?
All right.
I'm videoing.
Yes.
Yes.
You can edit me out if you want.
Oh, well, that's kind of difficult, but I will have a go. I'll just leave you in, what the hell. Yes. So, note to self, do not wash your sieve in the middle of cooking, because that is sticking to it and melting. So it's not going through, which is extremely tiresome. I have to swap sieves. I have more than one. Maybe too late. There we go. Let's see. Not a good idea at all. Right, so this one's dry, so this is going through no problem. Icing sugar in your toaster, not a brilliant idea either. Right, now, because this is butter, it's going to take a while to cream. You see the difference. Oh. I'll just burn the chocolate because I took my eye off it. Okay. It's an expensive chocolate too. You don't want this happening. Some of that might be rescuable. I'll set the alarm off. Be careful. Look at the burnt bit. No, that's had it. We have to start again. Doesn't smell nice. Oh, that's a shame. Okay, so I've got 1 ounce there. I have lots more chocolate in here. Don't look at me like that. 2 ounces more. This is a different chocolate, so I don't suppose it matters. Right. Remind me to look at that in a minute. It's quite hot in here, so this is melting nicely. It's probably do actually. Keep an eye on this. There's probably a good moment to turn the cake out. You don't have to be gentle with them. It's quite a solid cake. That's more like it. Not quite there, nearly there. Tablespoon of brandy to this, which is about a dessert spoon. That's it. melted chocolate this time. That'll do. What the brandy does is it starts melting the icing sugar more than the butter has. So it very quickly gets very soft like this. It smells amazing. Love the smell of brandy. I like it to smell better than the taste, to be honest. Right, so here we have some just melted chocolate. Yeah. Smells okay to hold briefly. Let's use that. It's more manageable. So we have this. Let's go all over the map. So we'll just mix this in. Oh, it's hot. Right, now this is what we will use to sandwich the two cakes together, but that's where the magic bit comes in. Burnt chocolate, dear me. And then there's a separate bit that goes on top, which there is no point at all making just yet. So we'll do that in a bit. So I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea. And you can do likewise. Actually you can't, because I shall cheat and edit this all together, so you need to pay attention. But this, you can pause it at this point if you're cooking along, as if. Anyway, you might be, mightn't you? Okay, we'll stop there for a bit. Okay, so we're back and we're going to stick the cake together now. But before we stick it together, we do the clever bit, which is, so we have chocolate layer, orange and ginger layer, slightly crooked, but who cares? And we're going to cut it in half this way, comme ça. But then what we do is we swap top and bottom, and then we turn the top through 90 degrees so that you have 1/4 is completely chocolate, 1/4 is completely orange, and 2/4 are half and half. Now obviously you have to do a bit of faffing about first, so put that to one side. The mix we made earlier, and where's my palette knife? So what we do is we sandwich this together this way, quite generously, otherwise it won't stick. And then we put some in the middle. You can be quite generous with this because it sets, soft sets, so it holds it together, but it doesn't go rock hard or anything like that. It's sort of fondanty. And you need quite a lot because you need to level things up, because cake never comes up the same no matter how hard you try. Okay, so then we put on that way, and some down the middle. And sandwich that on top, so ooh, it's going to be very lopsided, never mind. I quite like lopsided cake, it's authentic, isn't it? Who wants beautiful perfection? As long as it tastes all right, and it will. Oh goodness, it will. It is the best cake. It's absolutely the best cake. The original recipe is from a very ancient cookbook. I think it's a Victorian one. Or it might even be Elizabeth Acton. Can't remember. And it's chocolate and brandy cake. Might even have a... Is it the one that I've actually got a date for? No. It's the Tea Cakes with Brandy, 1866. It's the same book. Chocolate brandy cake. So the chocolate and brandy half of it is someone else's recipe. The ginger and orange half is mine. Now I'll just put this on something before I do this. That is the best chocolate. The original chocolate I was going to use was chocolate and orange chocolate. This one's chocolate espresso chocolate. My God, it's good. Right, so we've got this on plate. Oh, it's going to be a terrible mess. Actually, I probably want it on some grease-proof first. Another purchase from the amazing Mr. Harris. Giant thing of baking carton. Let's start again. Whoa. It's not set yet, so it's quite movable. I mean, when it's set nicely, we can just whip the paper out from underneath and keep the plate clean. Right, so puddings like this around the outside. You're supposed to put jam on first. I think it's, pardon the pun, over-egging the pudding. And it's quite messy enough without adding jam. But basically you just slosh this around the edge and it fills up all the gaps. Makes it very forgiving of oddly shaped cake. Right, now more melting of chocolate. So I'm going to make some glacé icing. Half an ounce of icing sugar that was. And we put a very small amount of water in there. Probably a clean spoon's a good idea. And dissolve that. Do it this way round, because I think if I add this to the sugar water it will curdle horribly. And you stir and stir and stir and stir so you don't get ghastly . You don't want lumps. And then you can see this is pouring consistency. That's about right actually. Normally I add the chocolate to the icing sugar and then I add the water so I can be more precise. I forgot, I did it the wrong way around, but actually, coincidentally, it's about right. So, and then you just chuck this on top and let it melt where it will. Because this cake is a bit lopsided, it's going more one side than the other, but never mind. Clean our palette knife. Palette knife isn't actually straight anymore, so you have to be a bit careful. And bent at the end. But just like that, and very gently across the surface of the cake. be enough to hide where the seam is. I'm not a beautiful cake decorator, or although I don't decorate beautiful cakes, is what I mean. Or I don't decorate cakes beautifully. Take your pick. Okay. Now, when that has set, then we can decorate it properly. But in the meantime, that needs to set, so that will take until tomorrow morning. So we need to cover it to keep the cat off. Not that he would, but you never know. Did once have a cat that attacked a lemon cake. Pushed this thing, it was an old one, smaller, up against the cake, made a hole and ate all the way around the cake, so we had to throw the entire thing away. Not happy about that at all. So, that's it for tomorrow morning, at which point we do decorating, so it's cleaning up time now. Okay, round 2, decorating. So I've tried to get everything in shot this time. So here's the cake, magnificently lopsided and very unlevel and all of that jazz. I don't care, it's set. Yeah. It's not going to come off my fingers. Now, I just do very straightforward decorating. I am not bake-off material. I just use straightforward icing, made with icing sugar and normally water, but because I want some flavour in this, and also because I might put some colouring in it, I haven't decided yet, and the colouring has a flavour of its own, I'm going to use some of the rest of the orange that we used yesterday, because icing sugar, there's about an ounce there, I didn't bother measuring it, takes up water so fast, and if you're going to pipe it, it needs to have some kind of integrity, otherwise it just rolls out at the end of the nozzle and goes wherever it likes. So this is quite challenging. So we want as little as possible, really. See how that does. I was watching the video from yesterday and realising how very dull it is to watch me mix stuff, so I have cut quite a bit of it. And actually this has some colour of its own, so I might not bother colouring it with anything else. I'm not going to put masses of decoration on this because it's just sugar, isn't it? And who wants to taste sugar when they can taste chocolate? Have my usual, where on earth did I put my icing nozzle away to? Because I make cakes like 3 times a year, if that, depending on how many books we're doing, and whether I'm going to the launch and whether it's somewhere I can take a cake. Had to make a fruit cake for Ness Owen's launch because it had to go all the way to Anglesey, and I didn't think it would survive if it's anything else. And it also had to survive the 2-day stop off on the way. And I didn't ice it until I got there, which was quite entertaining. That's better. Right, so my tradition is to do some kind of sun or star or something like that on this cake because it's for the solstice. Anybody who doesn't actually know what the solstice is, the winter solstice is the shortest day of the year. It's when the sun stays lowest in the sky, and if you're on the right tropic, can't remember which one it is, at noon the sun is exactly overhead or some such. But the reason it's called the solstice is because the sun appears to stop in the sky for a bit and maybe wobbles to and fro. Can't say I've ever noticed, but somebody did at some point, and that's why it's called the solstice, which literally means sun stop in Latin, I suppose. The trouble with this is it's so little, and getting it to the bottom of the nozzle is a bit of a challenge. You're going to lose half of it on the sides on the way down. But I don't like waste, so I'm not making more than I actually need. A bit like milking a cow, I suppose. If we get into innuendo here, I shall shut up. But the point about the solstice is it's the point at which the days start getting longer again and there's more daylight. And it's something that has been celebrated for a very long time. It's very important to the pagans. I'm not exactly a pagan myself, I'm sort of fellow traveller. Whoa, here we go, it's starting to come out the other end. Possibly a bit wet. Taste of orange, that's good. Right, so let me try and get that controllable. Because this year it's times go by turns, I'm going to go with a slightly different approach, and it's coming out and doing what it likes anyway, so I'm going to do a sort of spiral, and it's going to be very messy because this isn't quite the right consistency and there isn't enough in the thing to control it. This is why they always fill it on Bake Off, you know, so that they don't get air bubbles, which I've got, and so they can squeeze it more in control. But it doesn't matter, you can do what you like. Yeah, that's better now, make it a bit more even. And this is sort of times go by turns, so we're having a spiral. Might be able to get a bit more out of that. But the traditions for solstice are to eat a lot, drink a lot, tell stories, which is why we have the festival, and light fires. Well, we've never managed to do it somewhere where it was safe to light a fire, so we probably never do that, unless we do it outside, and who wants to be outside? Might be fun one year, if we can find somewhere where we can get under cover if we need to. I did have a fantasy I was going to put words on this. You can tell this would not have been a good idea. Anyway, so I'm very much on the Viking or Saxon mead hall approach to solstice, and we do occasionally, well, quite regularly when we have a live event, I do a gluten-free cake. Yes. It's not a vegan one, it's gluten-free, which is a chocolate Yule log, so to keep up with the pagan side of things. Not going to bother this year, obviously, we can't get through 2 cakes. Right, so, times go by turns cake, extremely wobbly spiral. Who cares? It's decorated. If you've got better skills than me, go for it. In fact, you can share your pictures of your solstice cake with us for next year, maybe, if you're that way inclined. So, here endeth the solstice cake. So, how it works is when you cut into it, you don't know what you're going to get. And you might get a slice that's all chocolate, you might get a slice that's all orange, or you might get half and half. So, spring, summer, autumn, winter is the concept, or times of day. So it could be night, noon, dusk and dawn. I enjoy it. It's a fabulous cake. It tastes amazing. All different slices of it taste amazing and different, which is half the fun. You don't know what you're getting until you cut it, and I'm not cutting it until the 21st. So if you'd like to join us on the 21st and watch me cut my cake, should you be that intense about things, it's 8 o'clock, it's on Zoom, and you can get tickets from Eventbrite. If you search for Solstice Shorts Festival on Eventbrite, I'm sure that will bring up the tickets, because I've not been so organised as to come with a link, and anyway it's too long for you to read. I might add it on to when I'm editing. And stories, poems, songs, all of them written especially for the purpose, apart from the actual poem Times Go By Turns, which we also have a reading of to kick us off. And some of it's live, some of it's pre-recorded in the most spectacular fashion. And as I was reminded by one of the actors who I was doing a nominal rehearsal with yesterday, because she's in France and wanted to make sure that her internet was working. She said, it's supposed to be fun, because I was fretting about whether it was going to work or not. She said, we'll enjoy it whatever happens. And I think that is the right approach. So we'll enjoy the cake. And I know what's gone into it, so I'm pretty confident of that one. I'm nervous as hell running this whole thing on Zoom. It's going to last about 3 hours as well, so you know we do have a couple of breaks for cake. But anyway, this will be going up on the website today, which is Saturday, so you've got Sunday and Monday to make your cake, so you can eat along as well as sing along or whatever it is you feel like doing on solstice. 8 o'clock, Monday 21st. So you can go out and see the conjunction of, is it Jupiter and Saturn? Yes, I think it is. Earlier in the day, you've got between 4:30 and 6:30 in the UK, it's visible, provided the sky's clear. And then you can come home, eat your tea, and then settle down in front of your computer and join us. Or you can buy the book, of course. Entirely up to you, but we do have some special deals on the book during and only during the festival. Okay, ta-ra.